Kind of interesting. Now, it wasn't the first time you'd asked John Calipari a question as the Arkansas head basketball coach, but it was the first time that you asked him at SEC Media Days something about Arkansas that didn't have anything to do with Kentucky. I think you were talking to him about, does this feel weird for you? You know, how does it feel for you, Coach Calipari, coming in as the Arkansas? What about for you, someone that's used to asking him the questions from Kentucky, from the Kentucky side of things, but here at Media Days, there he is wearing the Razorback red for the first time up there.
Yeah, it was kind of weird, and asked really about every other coach about him. They were all gave pretty good stuff. You know, there's a ton of guys like Rick Barnes has known him. They've known each other since the mid '70s when they worked basketball camps together. I think Rick Barnes said he had just gotten out of college, and John was still in college. But this would have been about 75, and then he got somebody like Mark Pope who replaced him at Kentucky, but they seem to have a really good relationship. And so, yeah, it was different. I mean, even, Greg Sankey, the SC commissioner, he introduced every coach, men and women, and he'd give a little intro, a little spiel. And he said it was, still taking some, he was getting used to seeing John in a different shade of color, but he was glad he was still in the SEC. And I think one of the Kentucky writers asked Bruce Pearl about Mark Pope, and Pearl did talk about Pope. Then he said, I'm paraphrasing here, but some of the effects of, well, how great is it for the SEC to get to, have John Calipari at Arkansas and have Mark Pope go to Kentucky. So it's like even when you weren't necessarily asked about Cal, you said something about him if you were a coach, So, but it was kind of surreal, yeah, because I know he got hired several months ago, and he's had several speaking engagements, and they've had spring meetings, but. The tip-off deal is where you really see, most of the media and everybody's gearing up for the season, and they've been in practice. And so, that was kind of maybe the official. Yeah, this really happened. I didn't dream it up. He really is the Arkansas coach.
Well, I guess it's sort of to me mirrored, maybe in a different way, but felt a little bit like football media days, in which the overarching topic or the thing that was hanging over the whole deal was Nick Saban, who wasn't the head coach any longer at Alabama. And in this case, it felt like Calipari's move to Arkansas, or him just being the Arkansas coach, was overarching the number one topic at basketball media days. And it's kind of interesting how those mirrored each other.
Oh, yeah, I don't think there's any question. And, you think the big story would be Texas and OU coming into the league. And, of course, that is a big story still. But and Kentucky having a new coach, Mark Pope, that's a big story. But I think, a coach going from Kentucky to anywhere in the league is a really big story. And, of course, when it's somebody that's already in the Naismith Hall of Fame and has been in there, I guess, for 9 years, that it's just, everything just kind of compounds it. And plus, it's not like he's going to some downtrodden program. He's going to Arkansas, which maybe doesn't have quite the history of Kentucky. Very few places do, but Arkansas has got a great history, too, and a couple of coaches pointed that out. I mean, Buzz Williams was – I think I asked some of the guys, like, maybe how big a shock was it in the coaching community? Not that a good coach would take the Arkansas job, but that somebody would – Cal would leave Kentucky when he's been there so long and been so successful. Obviously, recent years haven't been as good. And Buzz Williams pointed out, well, Arkansas's got a lot of history, and I think Nate Oates, the Alabama coach, talked about the pride Arkansas has. So in some ways it's made a lot of sense. Basically, everybody said the same thing. They all expect him to be really successful at Arkansas, just like he was at Kentucky. And then obviously you look what Eric Musselman did. Last season was a disappointment, but 3 seasons before that were all really good, especially the 2 Elite Eight appearances.
Hey, Bob, last year, the splash hire, so to speak, with Chris Beard out at Ole Miss. How do you think they're going to do him there in year 2 at Ole Miss?
They're ranked 19th in the AP poll. I think they're going to be pretty good. As always, they got some good players in the transfer portal. They got some good players coming back. I think Ole Miss was maybe 1 or 2 wins away from going to the NCAA tournament. They were 20-12. I guess they turned down an NIT bid. I think these days people just don't want to go to the NIT, unfortunately, if that's an option, and they can't get in the NCAA tournament. But yeah, I think Ole Miss is going to be pretty good. But they're one of, and it's a preseason poll. Obviously, it's a projection, not a reality. But 9 SEC teams in the top 25. That's in the preseason top 25. That's never happened before. I don't know if football's ever done that. So it's pretty crazy. But yeah, I think Chris Beard will have a good year too at Ole Miss, and he's also had a history of doing well in the second year. He probably would have done well in the second year at UALR, but after going 30-5, he left for Texas Tech. Well, first he left for UNO, then he left for Texas Tech. But yeah, I think Chris Beard will have a good season.
I think some fans were a little taken aback by Arkansas being picked fifth in the SEC, and their mindset is, hey, you got Cal, you got this really, really talented roster, and they maybe should have been voted higher than that. And I can see a point to this, but I also wonder, I think that's a really high opinion of what a team looks like right now for a first-year coach at a program, whether he's a Hall of Fame guy or not, and a completely different roster. I mean, a totally different roster. He's told the story so often about, let me see the team. Oh, there is no team and all of that. You don't know how they're going to be cohesive or whether they will be. We don't know the strengths or weaknesses of this team just yet. So I think fifth, actually, I think that says a lot about the team that he's put together before they've even taken the floor.
Yeah, I don't have the phone in front of me. I think they got picked fourth.
Was it fourth?
I think they got picked behind Alabama, Auburn, and Tennessee. And yeah, fourth. I think Kentucky might have gotten picked 8. Do what? So it's just a really good league. I mean, and of course the coaches they're going to promote their league, but now with being kind of a super conference with Texas and OU coming in, 16 teams. I think it was Mike White who's at Georgia and he coached at Florida and played at Ole Miss, so he obviously knows the league really well. He said that he thinks that they should get double-digit bids, and of course the Big Ten's going to say that too. And maybe the Big 12 will, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's a very deep league and probably arguably the best it's ever been,
Bob, well, I think all of the state of Arkansas, the fans are a little excited after the news coming out that Taylor Green's going to be starting this week. Kind of, what are you thinking? How do you see this Arkansas-LSU matchup? I think LSU, for what I've seen so far, they look like one of the most explosive teams, if not the most explosive team in the SEC.
Well, they can really. I mean, Nussmeier in his first year as a starting quarterback, he's averaging, I think, about 330 passing yards. To me, their running game's been kind of disappointing. I think they're only averaging a little over 120, and I think they'd like to have more balance. But hey, they protected. They've only given up 2 sacks all year. That's very impressive. Ole Miss came into that game last week, I think, leading the SEC in sacks with 24. They didn't add to that total. They still got 24. And so OU didn't sack him. So, yeah, I think they're a really strong passing team. They got a really good tight end. As usual, they got speed on the edge. They got everybody talks about they got 2 tackles that are going to be our NFL guys. Maybe that whole line. The line's very experienced. Of course, Brad Davis, their offensive line coach, was with Sam here at Arkansas. He's a really, really good coach. So, and they got after defensively, Harold Perkins, unfortunately, is out for the year. And he's one of the best players in the SEC, one of the best players in the country, and he wreaked havoc with Arkansas and Fayetteville a couple of years ago, getting 3 or 4 sacks, whatever it was. But yeah, LSU I think sacked Jackson Dart 6 times, so they're a team that protects real well, and they get after the quarterback on defense real well. So and they're always loaded with athletes, right? So, but I see it as kind of I think it's a pick'em game in Fayetteville. And as you guys mentioned, with Talon being back, and obviously that open date really came at a good time for that. But, I mean, I think the crowd's going to be crazy just like it was for Tennessee. And if Arkansas gives them something to cheer about, it's going to be another great atmosphere. And I think Arkansas's I think it's a 50-50 game. It won't surprise me either way.
Do you think that there's any specific advantages that they have over LSU in terms of what it is Arkansas does well and where LSU may struggle?
Well, I think Arkansas's run defense has been pretty good all year. I mean, they don't have a ton of sacks, but I think they've been really good with their run fits, whether it's the linemen, I think the linebackers have really played well. That's been arguably one of their best positions. And, they've gotten pretty good run support. Think about T.J. Metcalf as safety. And Jaden Johnson, but Metcalf especially is a very physical safety and sure tackler. And so I think that's Arkansas's, they want to make them one-dimensional, and I think LSU only ran for maybe under 50 yards against Ole Miss or something. So I think that's an area where that could be a plus for Arkansas. They're holding down the LSU rushing offense.
Bob, one thing that I've noticed a little bit, maybe once here and there, and it's not like you can run the screen game 12 times in one game, but one way to negate the blitz and to help your quarterback is to be efficient in the screen game. Could you see us helping Taylon Green and maybe throwing a screen in there once a quarter?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I think Jaquindon Jackson, he's a good receiver out of the backfield. I think, Braylon Russell could do that. Maybe get your tight ends more involved now that they've had another week to get healthy. And we know that, and I know it's different defense, and they basically LSU changed their whole defensive staff after last year. But if you remember, Luke Haas had a monster game against them, caught a couple deep passes for touchdowns, and hopefully he'll be healthy with another week, him and Ty Washington. So, yeah, I could see, the backs being involved in the passing game, and also, getting maybe the tight ends more involved.
Bob, did you pour one out for the Tigers after the division series loss to the Guardians? Nobody expected them to get there, even after the first 2-3 months. It's a really successful season in a franchise that's going in the right direction.
Well, yeah, hopefully. Yeah, I'm not one of those people that was disappointed to lose that Game 5, especially when we had our ace going and he gave us a grand slam. Yeah, that was I was there in Hot Springs waiting to go to the basketball event, and I said probably some words I shouldn't have. Although it was in a sports bar and it was very loud. But a disappointing ending to a really pleasantly surprising season. I mean, getting back to the playoffs and the room we put on. Like, hey, how you doing, man? A lot of young guys playing that you hope that'll carry over, and they can add some good pieces, maybe some starting pitchers. So we have more than one actual starting pitcher in our Holt rotation. But yeah, I mean, the Tigers had a great run, made the playoffs, knocked off the Astros, took the Guardians to the limit. I think we have the Cy Young winner, got some really good young players. So, yeah, I mean, if a Tiger fan is unhappy about that season, they just don't want to be happy.
Sounds like I know you're at the Hogs Illustrated luncheon today. Coach Cal speaking, about 45 minutes from now? So, hey.
Yes, so actually, I think it might be closer to noon. So, yeah, around 30 minutes, something like that. Hopefully it's not all talked out from media days.
I don't think he's ever all talked out. Don't you think so?
Yeah.
I think so, too. Well, Bob, we'll let you go. I appreciate you coming on, as always. Have a good lunch there, and we'll see you Saturday, Arkansas LSU.
Okay, sounds good. You guys take care.
Thanks, Bob.
Bob Holt.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.